Hey Mia, when I said if you could help me get ready for today's podcast, I'm not so sure this is what I had in mind. Yes. Yeah. What were what were you going for with this?
I wanted to live. Yeah.
You wanted to love me? You put the stickers on because you wanted to love me? That's very sweet. Well, this is our glam look for today's Kids Travel Tales podcast. Welcome. Mia, today we are going to speak to someone who knows four different languages. Four. Show four? Four. Very good. English, French, Italian, and she's picked up some Spanish as well. Whose family do you think we're talking to?
Gabriel.
Gabriel's family. All right. And we're going to talk to them about their summer trips to Europe as well as their cruise. But they went on a cruise line that's not Disney. What do you think about the fact they went on a...
Mm.
No. Well, part of the reason we're doing this podcast is to learn about different types of trips. You excited to learn about a different type of cruise vacation we could take? Maybe? Okay. How excited? All right. Let's do it. All right, we're back. I've removed my stickers and we're ready to go. And almost ready. And this is the first podcast we've recorded since we've started putting out episodes. And we just want to say that. And, and thank you all so much for the support and the feedback. We really appreciate you listening. Mia, do you have anything to say to the listeners?
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. All right, welcome to Fall with Kids. Mia, it's time for your question of the week. You ready? You nervous? Oh, now you're just being funny. Welcome to Reporting a Podcast with your 7-year-old co-host. Mia, your question of the week is, since we're going to talk about European vacations, if you could go anywhere in Europe, where would you want to go because you've never been to Europe?
I want to get ice cream.
Ice cream? I thought you'd say you'd want to go to London because you wanted to meet Mary Poppins.
No, I want to get ice cream.
Is there any particular country you'd want to get ice cream in?
Ice cream.
Ice cream? So you don't care where you go as long as it has ice cream. Okay. I guess that's traveling with 7-year-olds. It doesn't matter where you go as long as there's ice cream. But let's find out if Kristin and her family feel the same. Hi, Kristin and Julian.
Hi, Julian.
Hi, Julian. Gabriel's
Hi.
feeling a little under the weather today, so we have little brother Julian joining us instead. Thank you guys so much
Yay!
for being here.
Our pleasure. Are you excited?
No.
Typical Julian.
Well, hopefully we're going to talk about, I know you love transportation, and we're going to talk about your favorite Swiss transportation. Mia, do you want to ask? Oh, Mia's showing you the questions to get excited. Mia,
Good
that's
idea.
so cute. Mia, you want to ask him your first question?
What's your favorite way to travel? Car, plane, train, or cruise ship? Plane.
Do you say plane? Mia,
Oh,
you want to ask him the next question?
What did you dress up for Halloween?
What did you dress up for? I didn't know this.
Or what did you dress up as?
A conductor and a pilot.
And a pilot. That's right. And a train conductor,
pilot.
hybrid.
Oh my gosh. Where were you flying to?
I don't have an airplane or a train.
You don't have an airplane?
Or
We'll
a
work on
train.
getting you an airplane.
What was your favorite thing about being on a big cruise ship?
What did you like about your spring break cruise last year?
I went to a summer camp called Camp Ocean, and I could play video games.
Oh, that does sound like a lot of fun to do on vacation. Mia, you want to ask the next one?
Is there a favorite food or dessert you got to eat every day?
Chocolate fudge cake.
If you could design your own cruise ship, what would it have and what would you name it?
I don't know how to name it, but it would have It would have video games and a water slide and a restaurant with fudge cake.
Wow. I think I think there's a cruise ship out there for you, Gabriel. I'm pretty sure. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to
See
Mia
you,
and I
Chuck.
today. I appreciate it. All right, Kristin, it's just us moms now. And I've really been looking forward to chatting with you because, as I'm sure a lot of moms can relate, every time we sit down to talk about one of your trips, we usually get interrupted by a Gabriel or a Mia or a Lego block tower falling over. So it's really nice just to have some solid time to hear about your family adventures. Let's start with more about your family, your background, and why you all have done so many summer trips over to Europe.
Awesome. Yeah. And thanks so much for having me. My name is Kristin. I am a proud mama of two boys. They are 4 and almost 7. And my husband is actually from Europe. So I grew up in New Jersey. He grew up actually in China, but he lived for a while in Paris as well as Italy. So whenever we go to visit him, it's very exotic and fun. And when we went to New Jersey to visit my family, it was a little bit different. But we're in a very fortunate position that we are able to go and visit his family around the world, mostly in France and Italy. And then we'll also talk about some of the road trips we've taken to see my family.
Besides quality family time, of course, when you all are in France and Italy, what have been some of your favorite activities to do or places to visit?
Absolutely. So it's no accident that I married a European. France and Italy have always been very near and dear to my heart. So when we travel, we do want to see family, but we also want to make sure we're exploring the beautiful country, eating the delicious food, and just seeing something new and exposing them to something different. So when we do go, so my mother-in-law is in Paris, but we've been to Bordeaux. We decided to drive over to Switzerland since it's pretty close by. When we're in Italy, we will visit his family in Ancona, which is on the east side of the country, but we also like to go down to Sicily or just travel to see a different place. And over there, it's quite easy, right? You hop in the car, the countries aren't that big. You can easily take a train somewhere, so a little more easy to move around.
So we talked about cars and trains. I know you all have gotten around by boat as well. What form of transportation do you think is easiest for young kids in terms of getting around France or Italy?
So I would love to say for eco-friendly reasons that everybody should be taking trains or even bicycles if that's your thing. We most recently went to Switzerland, and as everybody knows, they have a fantastic train system. My kids love public transportation. I would have loved to take trains all over the place, but we ended up with a car. We actually had access to a car already. So when we did the cost benefit analysis of taking a car versus doing a train for 4 people throughout Switzerland, we actually found that it would have been less expensive to take the car that we had access to. Because since we didn't have to pay for the rental, gas and tolls weren't that bad. And another decision factor for us was really the schlepping of all of the stuff. So I hope that when they're a little bit older, we'll be able to leverage the public transit system more. But because we were going to have suitcases, it was going to be a big hassle to get our little ones around. So I'm definitely pro public transportation, but in this case, we just weighed a couple different factors.
And I'm sure your boys are looking forward to taking more public transportation as well. Because one of my favorite memories with your family is your younger son coming up to me and telling me, I rode the boat in Switzerland. Do you like boats in Switzerland? So we know that they are very big fans of all the different transportation options over in Europe. How has travel with your two boys changed versus when they're younger to now? What are some of the biggest differences you've noticed?
Ooh, versus when they were younger, they're definitely taking in more of it. We are incorporating their feedback as well. So a lot of the travel that we've taken, uh, as a choice, we like to make sure that honestly, it's pretty child centric. I think there are a lot of families who don't follow that path, and that's fine. But we really try to make sure wherever we're going, they're going to be entertained. I happen to have very energetic boys, and they're just not going to kind of conform to what I want to be doing, wine tasting or, having a luxurious dinner. So we have to, wherever we're going, we have to kind of research, okay, what is there to do for them? And I do like to follow their passions, right? One of the reasons we chose Switzerland was because they learned about that at school. And one of my sons loves trains and the other one loves chocolate. And so what better place to go? We were going to be in France anyway. Let's pop over to Switzerland. Then we learned all about chocolate there. Now they want to go to chocolate farm. So I've been Googling where we can go see chocolate harvesting. And that's fun for them. We're going to have plenty of time later to plan more trips around ourselves. But certainly when it was younger, there was a lot more stuff. There's a lot less stuff now, which is good, although we still have a lot and they can't really carry their own things. But seeing the engagement, even now I see over time continuing to kind of harvest that relationship with the rest of the family. I can see how that's paying off. And we're really lucky to have the opportunity to do that year over year.
Absolutely. Now, I do have to ask you about this as a Disney fan, but you have visited Disneyland Paris as well. For a family who maybe only has one chance to get over to France, is Disneyland Paris something you would recommend doing, or do you recommend focusing elsewhere with younger kids?
This was actually a bone of contention last time. When we went to Switzerland, we flew through Paris, and our older son was asking to go to Disneyland. We didn't tell him it was about 45 minutes from Paris Center, but he was asking. And normally, again, we like to follow their passions. We would love to take them, but we have done it already, and we decided to, we had a full agenda. We decided to focus on seeing some new things. I think if it's the first time, you have to balance what the parents want to do with what the kids want to do. Disney, unless you're a Disney adult, which I do know a lot of them, but it's for yeah, it's a kid's thing.
Right
I mean,
here, here's your Disney adult.
absolutely, we had a blast. Like I'll say, I was very nostalgic from the times that we went there when we were young. Disney in Paris is a little bit smaller. I think that you can do it in a day. It's not something I have to go back to 2, 3, 4 times. I think we kind of got the full experience. So I would say if you have a day to kill and you really want to make your kids happy, go for it. But if you have a full agenda, you've never been to France before, perfectly fine to skip that trip.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense too. And I really like how you phrased that and sounded it all out. Though for, I'm sure, the Disney adults to hit every park, that's definitely a bucket list thing you have to check. Any tips in general for families with young kids coming over to visit France or Italy?
Except the time difference. When I go, I always know that the first 2 days are going to be rough. I try not to plan too much. I try not to have us moving around too much. We also embrace the later lifestyles. So normally we're having dinner at 8 p.m. The kids are going down around 10:30 or 11. That typically means that they sleep in. It makes the adjustment there a little bit easier and the adjustment back a little bit easier from a time zone perspective, but also just from the style of life perspective, right? People do eat a little bit later there, especially when we're with family. We know we're not going to get them to bed by 7:30. And it's actually better to keep them up for that type of stuff. I do have a couple just general travel tips, if that's helpful.
Absolutely. We want to hear all your insights.
So I guess 2 that maybe aren't that new, but I got a really great tip from a friend of mine for those like A-type personalities because I get pretty anxious around packing. And so I actually have a Google sheet on my phone that lists out basically everything I could need depending on the type of trip. So maybe it's European fall, it's a New Jersey winter, it's, summer in Hawaii or whatever. And then I have various lists about what I should be packing for that. And then I can kind of check it off as I go down the list. And then I have a tab for my kids as well. That changes and evolves a lot more. We're beyond pacifiers and blankets and moving into, some of their favorite toys and gadgets. But that has really helped kind of lessen that anxiety for me. And then the number one thing that it's kind of always the last thing to go in, but one of my favorites is a portable white noise machine. If you're, sleep is so important. And so you never really know what the hotel is going to be like or the Airbnb you're staying at, how noisy the street might be. And that kind of just alleviates any of that pressure. Make sure you get a good sleep for you and your kids.
Absolutely. That white noise is critical because you never know if you're staying in a city too, how busy the street noise may be. The other thing is, do you all use packing cubes? That was a game changer for me when we started going on cruises.
We do. I don't know if we use it effectively. So tell me more.
They have 3 different sizes, one for clothes, one for smaller garments, one for shoes. It just compresses everything. You can fit twice the amount into one suitcase as I normally could have otherwise. So I definitely recommend packing cubes. There's some really good links on Amazon. More room for all those toys and books that Gabriel and Mia always need to have on every single vacation.
Yeah, and I like that too because we use it to divide up our stuff. And
Mm.
usually it'll be my husband with my older son and me with my younger son in separate rooms. So we have one suitcase, but I can just grab my cube and my younger son's cube and bring that over. And I know that he has all of his stuff and we have all of my stuff, so that it's been helpful to stay organized.
Absolutely. And there's one other thing I want to hit on as far as general tips, because when you came back from the trip, you said you were surprised about how warm it was in August. And Chris and I actually got engaged about, oh gosh, I don't want to say how long and date myself, but we got engaged in Switzerland too. And we were surprised how warm it was there. How do you think you should approach packing for a European trip in the summer these days?
Good point, and this is definitely a lesson that we've learned. I'll tell kind of some good stories and some bad stories. So our most recent trip, we were visiting family in the south of France, and that's why I decided to go to Switzerland, because we knew that it was going to be a little bit cooler. Fortunately, where we were in France had a pool that kept the kids busy basically all day and kept us cool. But other than that, we honestly didn't do much. When we went to Switzerland, it was probably a good 10 degrees cooler. So I recommend mountain trips for sure. And being around bodies of water, I think, can really help with that. The kind of less good experience was when we went to Sicily in August, and we honestly couldn't do anything until 5 p.m. And that, I would say, was a little bit more of a boring vacation. Unfortunately, we had to resort to a lot of daytime screen time because there otherwise was not that much to do until we could leave around 5. And we were actually on the beach from about 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., which was
Lovely.
quite unusual. But it was just, even for the beach, it was too hot during the day.
Wow, absolutely. Those are some really good takeaways for folks thinking about traveling over to Europe in those months. Another international trip you all have done, albeit on a very different form of transportation, was a Carnival Cruise. What port did you all sail out of? Where did you all visit? How did you find a Carnival Cruise as a spring break option?
Yeah, so we flew, no, we actually did not fly at all, which was the great part of it. We took the cruise out of Baltimore, and that took us down to the Bahamas. I don't think we would do it again. I can tell you some of the pros and cons. So living in Washington, D.C., Baltimore was about quickish 1 hour drive, very convenient. We could throw everything in the car. They were incredibly efficient about helping us get our luggage on, but it just alleviated that pressure of having to get all the stuff in, 2 suitcases or whatever would make it convenient to fly. And also, if I'm leaving on a cruise, I typically like to fly out the day before and fly back the day after, because I would get too anxious about actually missing the boat if I'm flying in day of. So I think also from a financial perspective, that was probably better. The reasons I wouldn't do it again is because to get down to the Caribbean takes a while. So we had, I think, 3, if not 4 full days on the ship, which can get a little bit boring. You get a little bit stir crazy. And also, it took a while to get to warm waters. So when we left for spring break, it was cold in Baltimore. So my crazy son was in the hot tub. Nobody else was in the pool. But so for the first, 2 days, we actually couldn't really enjoy the pool either, because we hadn't gotten to warm waters yet. By the time we got back, actually the weather was a little bit better. But I think it's a great option for spring break. I have talked to people though who definitely recommend flying somewhere that's a little bit closer and really maximizing the time that you're able to get off the boat and go to the various islands.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we cruise on Disney out of Fort Lauderdale or Port Canaveral, you're in the Caribbean the very next day. So, how was the experience on Carnival overall compared to the value that you paid, taking the Baltimore out of the equation?
Yeah, I mean, it was highly valuable. And listen, for the memories, oh my gosh, my kids still talk about it every day. My son brought home a little, I don't even know what material it is. It's not soft, but it's a little rendering of the cruise ship itself, which he was sleeping with. He's broken it in multiple places. We had to glue it back together, and he still talks about the boat all the time.
That's
I do want to
amazing.
touch on, Jen, your segue around screen time and
Hmm.
segueing to the cruise. So one, listen, a great thing about cruise ships as well as resorts are kids camps. And they really give a lot of breathing room to parents who are trying to relax. My 4-year-old, I guess he was 3 at the time, he wouldn't go, but that was fine. He's also my slightly easier child to entertain. But my older son loved it because they have video games. And they have video games as much as you want. They're not teachers, they're camp counselors. They would kind of let him do that. And he was 6 at the time. It was a bit of a struggle for us to teach him balance, and when it's time to stop, it's time to stop. So he was definitely asking constantly, but particularly because we had so much time on the boat, I think that he was also a little bit bored with that. So he needed to do something. So it's just something to keep in mind. I think now it's just standard nowadays that when you go to these types of things, there's going to be screens, there's going to be games. I think it's something to know. And for a lot of families, that's completely fine. Everybody's on vacation. Why not have fun? For us, it did create some issues just because we didn't feel like he was old enough to deal with some of the emotions around that.
I can see that. I've never been on a Carnival cruise, but it sounds like one big difference, at least versus Disney. Disney and the kids' clubs, yes, they have video games, but the counselors are playing gaga with them. Mia did a drum circle once on there. They have hula hoop contest. The counselors are really engaging them in non-screen activities, even science projects, art projects, which I so greatly appreciate. So there is more balance. Now, the downside is you're paying that Disney costs. Finally, one last trip I wanted to talk about. And this you said was one of your favorite trips that you've taken in recent memory, your road trip last summer through upstate New York. What was your itinerary? Do you recall? And what were some of those memorable moments that made the trip so successful?
Two factors were that it was surprising how much fun it was. And it was also nostalgic because my family mostly is from upstate New York. And so we always try to book a hotel about halfway up, and usually with a pool, just to give them something to do and tire them out, especially after being in the car for so long. So one of the trips that we've taken, which was not exactly this, but we went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So Amish country, Dutch Wonderland, which is a great amusement park, especially for younger kids. So just really in the sweet spot of that. Interesting food and kind of these Amish style buffets. It's just something a little bit different and not too far from home. More recently, we drove up to Syracuse. So Syracuse is home to the New York State Fair. It also has the Carousel Mall, which has a lot of activities, including a real carousel inside. And I actually grew up riding that carousel, and it hasn't changed in, probably 30 plus years. And to take my son on the same carousel that I went around and around and around on when I was little was really special. And then the other plug I would make is the Montage Mountain Resorts, which is outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania. And in the winter, it's a ski park. And in the summer, it's a very manageable water park. So they have like 4 rides. It's not huge, but with the wave pool and some slides, it was absolutely enough to keep them entertained and again, get some of those wiggles out, halfway along the way.
Absolutely. One of our earlier episodes was all about water parks in the tri-state area. So that's another great one to add to the list. And how nostalgic to be able to relive all those childhood memories with your boys now. Do you have any other recommendations on hotels, where to stay, family-friendly lodgings, or is just the general rule of thumb, make sure it has a pool?
Absolutely. And we like free breakfast too. That's always, even if it's gross, that's always something that we like. But one of the things I completely forgot about that I remembered now on this last road trip up was sweets. So we stayed, I should get the real name because I want to give them credit, but think about like a comfort suites type of scenario. So normally we would be booking 2 separate rooms, wall dividing us. It's kind of isolating, right? My husband and I completely separate from each other. And then as I was booking, I remembered that they have suites. So a 2-bedroom situation with a little kitchenette, which we didn't actually use, but it was really nice to have 2 separate but connected rooms with a living space where we could play cards and such, instead of running around the halls of the hotel.
Absolutely. Those suites are a game changer. And also, if you're booking on Hilton or Marriott or whatever point system you use, check the value because sometimes those suites may be a better combination than booking 2 separate rooms. Absolutely. Yeah, that style has worked really well for our family too. Any spots in upstate New York? If you go back again, you're still looking to visit with the boys?
So we have friends who took their two boys to Legoland. It's a little bit further off the beaten path. It's definitely not on the way up to Syracuse, but that is something that I've heard is really worth visiting. So I think it's worth planning a long weekend around that.
Have I told you that Legoland is #1 on Mia's wish list for travel in 2026?
Let's do it.
I know. I need to make that trip happen. All I've been hearing about since she started school. Mom, my dream and my goal for this year is to get to Legoland. So I need to check those calendar
Dream big.
dates. Yes. Yes. And Paloma loves building Legos. So that's definitely on our list. Well, Kristin, thank you so much for coming on the episode today. This was so much fun. Before we let you go, we're going to play a little game we like to call Final Boarding Call, some quick hit questions to wrap up the episode. Let's start with your travel essential, the one item you will not leave home without.
The white noise machine.
Of course, absolutely. Favorite meal you've had on a family trip? I'm guessing somewhere in Europe.
Definitely. In Italy, we actually had a mini wedding celebration, and it was that typical 5-course pasta, lasagna, tiramisu, every meat you could think of in a small little village in Italy, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Take me there right now. I was going to say, I wouldn't hold it against you if you said your mother-in-law's cooking either. That's totally a totally fair answer. Favorite souvenir you've gotten on a trip? Let's do one for Gabriel and the boys and one for you.
Ooh, one for me. That's such a fun question. Nobody's asked me that. From Switzerland, we got a magnet that's a cuckoo clock that kind of the bottom goes back and forth. And my son spent a lot of time outside the shop window watching the cuckoo clocks go. So that brings back some really nice memories. And when I go, I bring back food. So I brought back a lot of chocolate, a lot of cookies. So it doesn't really last, but it makes me happy.
And that is absolutely very key as well. Destination that's still on your family's travel bucket list.
It's going to have to wait until they're a lot older. I would love, this is dreaming big, right? So I would love to go to the Galapagos Islands. I'm hoping that they will make it a little more sustainable to travel there. That's really what's holding me back is the ages of my kids, and that I think that ecotourism has not been great for them. But so I'm hoping in my lifetime we figure out a way to get there.
Absolutely. There's family bucket list goals right there. Kristin, thank you so much again. This was really entertaining and also enlightening. And we hope you'll come back after you get to that Galapagos Islands trip one day.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.